Can a lion truly remember a human face after 2 decades? Among the countless people it may have encountered, could it still recognize the one who held it close as a terrified cub, trapped in a raging forest fire? Many might scoff at the idea, but on the vast grasslands of the Serengeti, a miracle unfolded, a testament that love defies logic and transcends all boundaries of time. One peaceful evening, as the setting sun painted the sky a gentle orange, a powerful male lion strode through the tall grass. No roar, no hunting stance, just silence and steady steps. Then, as if guided by memory, the lion gently rested its head on a woman's shoulder. The woman who had once saved its life when it was too small to stand on its own. It was more than a reunion. It was a quiet miracle, something no one could believe without seeing it with their own eyes. And for anyone who has ever loved an animal like family, this story would feel like a journey home. It all began in 2005, during the harsh, dry season of East Africa. The sun scorched the horizon, and dry winds blew dust across the charred lands of the Mikumi Wildlife Reserve. At the time, a young volunteer named Hannah, just 22 and fresh out of college, had joined a small wildlife rescue project. Hannah, with her fiery spirit and compassionate heart, spent her days caring for orphaned animals, documenting their behaviors and learning from local conservationists. One morning, while inspecting the aftermath of a forest fire near the park's edge, Hannah heard a faint sound from the bushes. It was so soft it was almost imperceptible, but she stopped, crouched down, and pushed aside the charred branches. There, curled up and trembling, was a lion cub. Its fur was matted and singed, one paw lightly burned, its big, round, wet eyes full of fear staring up at her. The cub didn't move. It was too weak. Hannah gently lifted it, wrapped it in her loose shirt, and whispered, "It's okay now. I've got you." On the way back to camp, she named him Leo. At the rescue station, Hannah worked day and night to care for Leo. She cleaned his wounds, fed him milk from a bottle, and wrapped him in a warm blanket at night. Slowly, Leo began to grow stronger, and soon, Leo was no longer just a rescue case. He became family. Like a giant kitten, Leo followed Hannah everywhere, stumbling over his own paws, curling up beside her during breaks, and nuzzling her knees when he wanted attention. Leo grew, becoming stronger and more independent. The rescue center made a tough decision. Leo had to return to the wild. "It's for his own good," they gently told Hannah. She nodded, knowing it was right, but her heart broke. On the day of his release, Hannah herself led him to the training gate. She knelt down, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Be strong out there. But if one day you remember me, you can come back." Leo looked at her for a long moment, then quietly turned, walking into the grasslands, into the wild, into the unknown. Time passed. 10 years, 15, then 20. Hannah was no longer the young girl with bright eyes and dusty jeans. Now, she lived in a quiet coastal town with her son Ethan, a nature documentary filmmaker who traveled the world capturing wildlife. Hannah spent her mornings on the porch, sipping tea and watching the sun rise over the ocean. On her lap was an old photo, a young girl lying under a tree beside a lion cub. That was Leo, her boy, her miracle. She had never forgotten him. One summer, Ethan invited Hannah to join a documentary shoot back in Tanzania. They would return to Mikumi, documenting the ecosystem's changes and the reserve's growth. At first, Hannah refused. "I'm too old for adventures now," she said with a smile. But Ethan insisted, "It's just a short trip. Maybe it'll bring back good memories." Something in his voice made her pause. Perhaps it was time to return to the place where a piece of her heart still lingered. They arrived a week later, driving through the dusty roads Hannah once walked. The land was the same, arid, golden, endless, but the reserve had changed. New facilities, more staff, better vehicles. Their guide, a young man named Kamari, spoke passionately about the animals. "There's a lion here," he said one afternoon, "who behaves differently from the others. His name is Leo. He's old now, but there's something odd. He doesn't attack, doesn't roar. Once he rested his head on a ranger's shoulder. No one knows why." Hannah froze, her hand gripping the edge of her seat. "Leo," she whispered. Could it be her Leo? That evening, the group stopped near a wide plain, waiting to film a wildebeest migration. The sun dipped low, painting the grass orange and gold. Suddenly, Kamari raised his hand. "Look," he said. In the distance, a lion approached, slowly, carefully, not hunting, not threatening, just walking. As the lion drew closer, everyone in the vehicle fell silent. He was massive, with a thick black mane and a calm face, but his eyes seemed to search for something, someone. Hannah held her breath. Her heart knew before her mind could catch up. Without asking permission, she opened the car door. "Mom," Ethan called, worried. "It's okay," she replied. "I know him." She stepped out. The wind brushed her hair, the grass touching her legs like soft fingers. The lion stopped, just a few meters away. Hannah stood still, barely breathing. "Leo," she called, her voice trembling. The lion looked up, their eyes meeting. Then the unthinkable happened. The lion made a sound, not a roar, not a growl, but a pained cry, like a child finding its mother after years of being lost. He took a few steps closer, then gently rested his head on her shoulder. Hannah, trembling, reached out to touch the familiar fur of his mane. Her eyes filled with tears. Time melted away. The pain, the waiting, the wondering, all dissolved. In that moment, they were back in time. A girl and her lion cub. No one spoke. A few tourists cried. Kamari wiped his eyes. Ethan captured the moment, his hands shaking. Hannah said nothing, just held Leo's neck, and he leaned into her as if to say, "I missed you." News of the reunion spread quickly. Rangers, researchers, and wildlife organizations buzzed. At first, some called it a coincidence. Maybe he recognized her scent, a biologist suggested. Perhaps she reminded him of a past caregiver, another said. But then someone found records from 2005. A lion cub named Leo, rescued from a fire, raised by a volunteer named Hannah. The story took off. Images of an older woman embracing a grown male lion under an African sky touched hearts worldwide. Experts debated lion memory. Some said lions remember through emotional bonds. Others argued scent mattered more than sight. But for Hannah, no explanation was needed. "Love doesn't follow science," she told a local reporter. "Sometimes it just waits and remembers." Before leaving the reserve, Hannah spent one final afternoon with Leo. No cameras, no crowds, just the two of them. They sat on a large rock under the sunset. Leo lay beside her, his head resting near her lap. Hannah slowly stroked his mane, whispering, "Thank you for remembering me." Leo didn't move, but his eyes closed gently, his head pressing into her hand as if to say, "I never forgot." Days later, Hannah and Ethan left Tanzania. Before going, she gave Kamari a letter and a photo. Her and Leo under the sky. Beneath the letter were 10 simple words, written in her careful handwriting. "Animals don't keep photos, but they never forget love." The story of Hannah and Leo has since been told in classrooms, nature documentaries, and wildlife centers worldwide. It's not just a story of a woman and a lion. It's about love without words, waiting through decades, returning unexpectedly but always meaningfully. Perhaps you've saved an animal. Perhaps you've loved it more than you realized. And perhaps, somewhere in a forest or grassland, it still remembers you, watching, waiting, hoping for one more moment to say, "I miss you."